world was destroyed and ended, and breathing remained through the surface of the earth is almost impossible. As the country has disappeared engineers and doctors in underground shelters far from all people, because after years when the air remains pure again, building the world from new at that time, they left two to protect each one. These people are sure that they will continue to live all these long years until the air. He remains pure and selfish. So do you think the two remain? They will be able to protect all these people they will build. The world is gone after a while. And the world, my friend, is gone, no review. This is what we will see in the video. Today's movie starts with us watching old recordings show us the total destruction. What happened in the whole world, and we know that the world. My friend, it was destroyed because of a nuclear war that took place between countries. Accordingly, radioactive gases spread in the air. I licked the whole world and anyone remained. He inhales the air and dies immediately. And we also see his cold A recorded speech by the president of the state reassuring the people he tells them that the state will not abandon them. But the lesson here is that at that time she was one of the journalists. I asked him if it was true that Hanan al-Mohandesan would be transferred and doctors for laboratories and underground from behind. People at this moment, the president, did not respond to her. He walked from Sukkot and that's it, sir. Years have passed. It is long for this speech and we are currently in one of the laboratories. But after the end of the world at this time, we find the mechanic Power doing from his hibernation god in which he was sleeping. Of course, Power will be affected now because it is still there. I leave God after 6 months to sleep completely, but after a while, this effect begins to go away. He always turns on the rest of the devices and then leaves his friend here, Carter. Wakes up. The first thing that comes out of the god Carter will be, I'm so tired I can't breathe. So I have a bag in my pocket and he starts to blow on it so that he can come back to be himself again and breathe well in general when Carter. Hoda quickly went to the devices because this means that it confirms to the rest of the laboratories that I am fine. And I notice now that the rest of the laboratories, they also confirmed that they are fine and everything is fine for them. Perfect. So Carter was happy and knew Power now. It makes him happy. But Power is not happy. Because this is the same thing that happens every 6 months and nothing happens. Any new one will die after a while. Power and Card. They wear work clothes and we will know what nature means. Their work is ahead. But the important thing now is to see Power gives Carter the tasks she is doing. They are supposed to do it today as they are. They work every 6 months when they wake up in Carter V. At that moment, when he read the list, he did something different, which is that there is a strong earthquake in the area. Of course, this made Carter a little worried because there may have been a leak of poison air outside the laboratory. But he reassured him and said if any leak had happened, we would have died by now, so Carter reassures him and starts reading the tasks. The lesson here is that they have an hour and 4 minutes ahead of them. They must complete all their tasks. They go back to sleep in their hibernation hall. Why do those who sleep in it for 6 months? Because, simply put, my friend, every 6 months the government follows a large amount of clean air is added to all laboratories, so that mechanics like Power and Carter they do their job and this quantity is enough for a while. Only 2 hours. And after 2 hours, the air disappears. Exactly from the lab. Everyone has to come back again Saturday so they don't die from lack of air. The important thing is that Carter and Power actually start implementing it. Their written assignments are 2 hours in advance. They finish then, by the way. Everything was fine. Perfect. But the problem is that Carter has a defect. He is small in his brain and this disorder makes him hallucinate a lot. He sees his wife, my father, in front of him, and not only that, but this one, it also affects his decisions, which are always he takes it, but in general. Carter is leaving now. The most important room in the entire laboratory is the hibernation room, the deep one, and because of it, Carter and Power. Why are they here from the beginning to care, and they take care of all the people here? And this room, my friend, is the one where everything is. The doctors and engineers who are the president. He says them before from behind people. So that means when the crisis ends and the air returns, we add people, all of these build the world anew. The lesson remains that I want Carter's wife to be among the doctors, those here. Of course, Power doesn't know something like this and Carter is hidden from him. But in general, Power had finished his mission, and now he was back. He went into a deep sleep. Then Power was not there. He is happy and can't stand himself because he cares about doctors. These engineers waste their lives on them many years, and nothing makes a difference. It's more annoying that they're asleep and not doing anything. Something from the time of crisis at this moment. Carter, when he saw that he couldn't stand himself so strong, he said, "Lonnie, people are very important because they mean experience, and the knowledge that will rebuild the world is power at that time." This talk went away because he finished his last mission, and indeed when he finished his mission, finally. He sat down now to listen to the match, old baseball. At this time, Carter loved my hand for him, a little hope, and he said to him, "By the way, my friend, the crisis is expected to end and the air will be clean again, only 30 years, or at most 150 years, and it is noticeable. My friend has been talking normally for years in small numbers because Power and Carter don't feel it. With her because they are always in a deep sleep so they don't feel the time. But in general it's boring. He doesn't believe all this talk and makes fun of you. On Carter and then gets up to enter the bathroom before the hibernation god enters. As for Carter in Beirut, he only turns on his hibernation machine. The problem here is that there is a power lock his god and Carter don't notice and leave. The second room brings the fluids that are they always put it in the god before they enter, so that they can endure. The 6 months inside God, he actually prepared the liquids and went back straight and put them down. Now the basis of fluids is in the power machine. Suddenly, he smelled something burning, so he looked behind him quickly. Why is his grocery store on fire? So he quickly ran. He went to the bathroom and recognized Power. So Power quickly came out. He put out the fire and put out the fire. But unfortunately, the god, it was completely ruined after everything that happened. The 2 hours, my friend, were over, therefore nothing will reach them. The laboratory and the power were also cut off due to the lock. What happened is therefore all hibernation machines. It won't work. So quickly, Carter will answer laboratory plans. So now Bid knows that the system emergency is present in the fuel tank, and this system, it returns air and energy for 2 hours as well. All the while, without thinking, they come out with Power and a card to the air duct, so they go to the fuel tank before the air in the laboratory runs out properly completely, and they die in general, meaning when they come out, airway power pot meets emergency system. They immediately opened and returned to each laboratory again. The problem is that when they returned to the lab again, the power was still cut off, and there was nothing air even after they did. The system, the emergency department at that time was the same, and the frustration. They are not waiting for death. For now he doesn't come to them. And at that moment this Power said, Carter said that he considers him like his brother and the person he trusts the most in this world. Of course Carter is happy with this talk, but unfortunately they are getting ready Monday to death. But suddenly and without any warning, energy and air return for 2 hours. This moment life returns to them again. So they both do it quickly, so that they fix the lock-in. The power to mean there is no second left after 2 hours, and they actually succeeded in this. And now they are both starting to see map of the large warehouse, located outside here, the lab, to get Carter some sleep from, because of course he will die without her after 2 hours. They still don't finish. And they actually know where the large warehouse in Beirut is, the two of them, and they are opening the entrance gate to the laboratory means they went out. And when they opened the gate for 2 hours, he said, "My friend, it takes a third of an hour because the place is surveyed. It increased and there was an amount of air coming out of the laboratory and entering the entrance. But in general, when they entered the entrance, they looked for anything useful until they arrived for the big warehouse. And at this moment, Carter remained. He was able to find a carton, so without thinking, he cut it and was happy very much because he found a god in it. So they quickly purified the god. This is him in power for the lab. But it's true then, Carter was very worried that he was sleeping in God. This is because he is afraid that there will be any malfunction in it. So when Power saw him worried, he told him, "I will sleep in this God, and you will sleep in the soul." My god Carter also refused because he was worried he was the second one. Then Power put him in front of him. The real thing is that he went to sleep in God and everything. It was perfect. Which is not perfect, that Power, while he was sleeping in the God, He heard the sound of air leaking coming from God. Carter said to me, and therefore why he heard that? He will see this leak and leave Power alone in God at that moment. Power began to feel I was suffocating because the air started to decrease and became rigid. Power was very nervous and kept calling Carter Mishish. That's it. The God started to empty the air in it until he covered the God. He stuck to Bar's body. Okay, he's going to go out in his soul now. Screaming. And he calls Carter, and Carter, of course, is not there. I heard it, but in general, after a little beating, it was a chapter. The energy was off the machine, and he quickly came back and cut off the cover. The God's power to come out was power at that time. He completely fainted due to the amount of oxygen, the little I have achieved. But thank God after that. Seconds later, he was safe and started to catch his breath. In these panels, Fadl kept shouting to Carter that he will die because of his delay. So think about apologizing to him. He told him that he was late because he couldn't find anything. It cuts off the cover of God and dialogue. It's all just an accident. Nothing more, dependent on Power Ma. He was convinced by Carter's words and said to him, "You meant that. I'm dying at this moment." Carter told him the one who insisted on putting pain in my place. Even though I'm worried about you at this moment. This is a little Power he began to be. Convinced and calmed down in general after a while. Power. Heidi took Carter and entered the hibernation room deep and asked Carter to choose. Someone from doctors and engineers take him out of God and he dies. So he and I are in his place. Of course I don't like this talk. Carter is strong because he thinks these people are important. More than them, and it is not right to kill any of them. In general, Power managed to convince him in the end. So when Carter, he was convinced that he would prepare a morphine injection to kill. It has the person who will sleep in his place instead of dying. Kano is suffering while Carter starts hallucinating. Another time, at that moment, his wife appeared to him. I convinced him to change his mind. And he actually changed his mind and came back. The injection full of morphine is in its place, so when Power saw him, he went crazy and a fight broke out between them. So big that they started hitting each other. Because Power sees that their lives are more important than these people. And if all these people die, they will die anyway. As for Carter, he still sees that this is a murder. These people are very important to the world. So based on that, it began. Now he calms down Power. Then they know he has it. A much better idea is for them to go. The laboratories, next to them, take them from the people in these laboratories, are cut off spare parts with which they repair their machine all the time. They have now begun implementing this plan. This moment, Carter is wearing a suit that protects him from air pollution with an oxygen tube or wired so that it can communicate with the Power and only come out. Carter actually stayed through the lab door. The first thing he met when he came out the door was a corpse to a soldier. Power knew this and told him that this body, she has a gun with bullets too. But Power said, "Get it done and forget about it completely, because the oxygen that with you, the second one is close to finishing." I thought he heard his words. He started moving, and after a while of walking, my friend, in the midst of a devastated world, Carter arrived at a place. Then he heard Power say it from the wire. He sees it from the camera. So Carter is happy, because this way Power will be able to direct him to the lab in the right way at the same time. Carter. Indeed, he was on his way to the second laboratory gate. He quickly opened the gate with difficulty and started knocking on it. People inside for anyone to open up to. But not he finds any response. So he remains nervous. At the moment, Bauer contacted him from the radio and told him that in a second opening, he can enter the laboratory. So Carter went to this opening and entered it with difficulty. The lesson remained that when Carter entered from this opening has skeletons that are people in the opening. But he did not care and passed by them because the oxygen was about to run out during this time. It happened. The problem is that the wireless signal cut off between them and between the Power and the power speed m so that it rotates on anything that returns the signal. Then it remains Power as he was looking. Noticed that there was a camera in the lab records. Everything that happens because of his curiosity. He started reviewing the recording that the camera had recorded for the time he was going to die in God, so that he saw what Carter was doing at that time. I wish he hadn't seen Carter, who is more a person he trusts, is standing next to him. Looking at his picture like this, he is with him and wants him to die. And from here he became very upset. He was very strong and began to lose confidence in everything and knowledge. My friend Carter here did not mean to believe Power because, as I told you, there was a defect in his brain. So at that time he was seeing his wife, and workers are crying, so there was no power supply at all. Anyway, Carter had just come down from the hatch. Carter entered the laboratory, and at that time the lab is completely destroyed because the roof fell, because the earthquake that occurred in the region a few days ago. Immediately, Carter, out of curiosity, came out quickly. He started looking through this opening in the ceiling, and from here he was greatly shocked because he saw the world, it's all destroyed by nuclear bombs and air, it's all polluted and there's no living creature. My friend, there are no animals or human beings in the laboratory currently, nothing. So he quickly returns to the laboratory he is at the peak of terror. But this time he will be very sad because he now understands that dialogue. All these laboratories are not books and there is no one. Literally, he lives unlike him, Power, and the doctors and the engineers they had, and everyone else died for a long time. But other laboratory equipment has been followed. But of course they are good. But automatically, although there is no one good or someone who lived in the first place. Of course at that time knew Power. With all this because the signal was back again in wireless, and they said that confirmations from laboratories, the second one that always comes to us, used to come automatically to give us hope and not go crazy. We continue working. But it is a card when he knows all these things. He was unnaturally frustrated and knew that there was nothing wrong. He had something in his hand to do. So he decided to come back to the laboratory again and die next to its owner in the same breath. At that moment, Power's anger and sadness were controlling him. On the other hand, when Carter arrived at the entrance to the laboratory, he became sterile. The first self means that it enters while it is clean. But why is Power going to explode with anger and wait for him inside? In front of the door, Power then told him, "I'm back. Now the camera recordings, and I saw you and you. You left me to die, and you meant to kill me, even though I trusted you blindly. But you betrayed my trust." At that time, Carter was unable to breathe. The oxygen he has is gone, and his currently Power refuses to let him in again because he wants to breathe. He tried to guide Power and told him, "You opened the door." I misunderstood. At this moment, Power is terrified, and without any introduction, he takes out a gun and raises it because it kills him. And for your information, my friend Power, take this gun originally from the soldier who was at the door, Carter said about her before. Of course, Carter, when he heard these words and was terrified and ran away, Bar doesn't kill. But generally, after a while of escaping, Carter entered the opening as much as he thought she would come back to a laboratory again. So he was able to breathe passionately, the suit. But suddenly, and without any introduction, Hope Power, he appeared in front of him and shot him. But he didn't hit him, so Carter ran away as quickly as possible and left. He hides in a place like this, and at this moment, he is a Power. He was running after him. But somehow Carter couldn't. He turned from another place, went back to the lab and entered the room in which liquids are made at the moment. He started hallucinating more and more, and his wife appeared to him. The lesson here is that she convinced him this time he kills Power with a morphine injection, and you can tell me. So my friend, he is unfortunately convinced and is currently. He goes out comfortably, which means Power doesn't hear. Meanwhile, when Carter came out, he started looking at me cameras so that he can see where Power is. But not he follows, because at that moment this Power appeared behind him. He shot him in the shoulder. So Carter fell on the ground and he sat screaming from the strange pen here. Power came and kept yelling at him, crying and hitting him. Not only that, but he also started to reproach him and said, "You know how much pain I'm in because of you. We are not supposed to be one family." The strangest thing, my friend, is that Carter himself tried. Yuri Bauer photographed my father so that he could understand him and give him gifts. At that time, Power did not care, frankly, and took the picture. He threw her far away without looking at her. And Carter went crazy. He was the second and started hallucinating, talking to the air and apologizing. It was as if he was literally talking to my father at that moment. I was shocked. Power started yelling at Carter because he was talking air, but Carter took advantage of Power's situation and ran away. After this happened, Power decided to see Carter. He wants to show him exactly what. And from here, he is shocked. When Power sees my father's picture, he always goes away. The room in which the doctors and engineers are located so that, compare the pictures with what is there in God, understood everything and understood why Carter. He cared about these people so much. I mean, his wife immediately started threatening Carter and told him, "What, you didn't go out? I will kill your wife and Hope," without any introduction. Carter comes out and Bauer orders a morphine injection into his neck. Of course, Carter did that, my friend. He was very, very upset. But Power failed the injection from his neck. He began to understand everything that happened at that time. The gun is on Carter while he is crying, but it is strange here. My friend, Power dropped the gun and refused to kill his friend. Seconds later, morphine started working on him and thus he fell to the ground. But before he dies, he told Carter, "Take care of your wife and who? Bye. The whole world." Of course, Carter will be there. Then I regret it so much and I cry for Power Sadiq, his age, but my friend, he returns quickly against his will. His God has power and goes into hibernation. Deep before the last 5 minutes of the 2 hours they will finish. But sir, the years will pass until one day we meet all the doctors. The engineers and my father are coming out of the machines, their own. And this is an indication that the air has become clean. Finally, their role came to build the world from new after everything went wrong because of them, and in this moment remains my friend Carter, who is currently an old man, goes and hugs him and keeps crying a lot for everything he lost in order to reach this moment. And the movie ends. That's it. Peace.